I
Hi, my
got it.
name is Roy Canterbury. I'm going to be hosting Arch Talk 101, and we have Dennis on the line with us, and we're going to talk to Dennis about what he's doing in archery. Welcome to the show.
Hey, Roy, appreciate you having me on and look forward to talking to you.
How about if you introduce yourself and so we can kind of learn a little bit more about you?
My name's Dennis Jackson. I'm from West Central Indiana, born and raised in a real small community here of just about 100 people, a very rural area. Our entire county only has about 16,000 people in it and two stoplights, so we're really small. I lived in Illinois for about 20 years. My wife's from Illinois, so when we got married, we ended up over there long enough to raise kids, and then the taxes kind of drove us back across the state line to where we're at now.
Yeah.
But I don't know, I've been into archery for, to be honest, I don't have a memory before archery. My dad was a bow hunter. He was a fairly well locally known bow hunter in the 60s and 70s here. And so I kind of grew right into it. I can't remember not having a bow in my hand. Just it's been a way of life and been passed down, I guess.
Well, that's a good way to start. You start off with it. And I
Yep.
know I started when I was pretty young in the 60s. So uh,
Yeah.
kind of giving away my age.
We always had little, homemade bows. Dad would make us little self bows and stuff, and I can remember it really well. I was in kindergarten, so I would have been 5, maybe 6 years old, and he bought me a Bear, uh, not Minuteman, mini Magnum. It was a little bitty 30-pound compound bow, and I thought that was just the best thing ever, and there was no stopping me from that point on.
Yeah.
Just been obsessed with it ever since. And it's kind of passed on to my kids as well. My kids aren't as serious bow hunters or into archery as I was at their ages, but they're busy doing things, making careers, and they'll come back around.
Yeah. Yeah. They'll,
Yeah,
they'll come back around. It's kind of nice getting kids started in something like that when they're young and they may go away from it and come back. I've talked to many, you know, people that have in it really big and then things change and then they come back to it.
absolutely. Yep. I got the grandkids shooting now when they come over, so that's a lot of fun. We pop a
Oh,
lot of balloons in the backyard, so
oh, the kids like popping balloons.
absolutely. They love to shoot water balloons, fill up water balloons, and set them out there in the yard, and they plink them off the deck, and just really think they've done something.
Oh yeah. I tried filling some with some powder of some kind of, they shoot it and have it kind of go over, but it was kind of a dud. It didn't really.
Yeah,
I was hoping to, a little puff of the smoke, from the flower, but yeah, it didn't work too well. So must not have had enough air in it, or it kind of settled and then it didn't
yeah.
go up like I thought it would. I wanted it to. It's something to try. I put some
Absolutely.
powder or
Anything to keep
something
them
in it.
entertained and keep them interested.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then I took one time I did a little video, a little short video. It's like I stuck a dandelion in the target. I'm shooting at the dandelion.
Yep. Yeah. I mean, those, I shoot traditional bows. I haven't shot compounds since the, I don't know, late 90s anyway, early 90s, mid 90s, somewhere in there. I kind of bounced back and forth for a little while, but I haven't shot them at all since late 90s. But what I've noticed is by shooting those, the smaller the spot that I shoot, the more I concentrate, the better of a shot I am. So I tend to do that a
Right.
lot. Dandelions, pieces of flower, a tiny piece of paper, or whatever. The smaller it is, the more focused you are, and the better you shoot, as a rule, or at least for
I,
me.
I I used to take those little 1 inch orange stickers
Hmm.
and you can get hundreds of them for a few pennies.
Yep.
And I'd stick up and I'd shoot at those. So I was
Yep.
shooting at a 1 inch circle at 20 yards. That was my target. And you get where you can start hitting it, and then you move back and move back and
Absolutely. Yep. Never move back far enough. I fall apart pretty quick after about 25 yards.
oh yeah. Well, get back further and further. It's harder and harder to see it. The pins are blurry, the target's blurry, everything's
Yep.
blurry, and things like, well, okay, this is beyond what I can shoot right now because I can't see my target, and my pins are just a big blur.
Yeah. Well, you get to a certain point. I haven't shot pins in 30 years, but when you get to that certain distance too, your pin is bigger than the dot that
Yeah,
it completely covers it. Uh,
yeah, yeah.
yep.
So then what do you just like? Well, as long as it's covering it, I guess we're okay. And
Got to be there.
it's I always like the the further down pins to be the smaller diameter pins. So instead of being, the big fat ones all the way
Yep.
down, I get smaller and smaller. So the smallest pin I could get, smallest fiber would be my longest pin, and
Hmm.
that allows you to shoot at those targets like that. Now on an animal, it really doesn't make much difference because it's normally pretty big, but um, because the target's way bigger. But still,
Absolutely.
I like them to get smaller, and for me, I like the top one to be red. I see it better than I do green or yellow.
The
I don't see
technology's
those as well.
advanced. The technology's advanced so much on that stuff, and I'm so far out of the loop because I just haven't shot it. That when I was shooting pins, they were just steel painted brass pins, with a dot on the end of them
Yeah,
and a
that's where I
glab of
started.
paint. So I know the fiber optics and the lighting stuff has came so far on those that
Oh yeah.
and I'm just, to be honest, I'm just not familiar with them at all.
So you shoot a recurve or a longbow?
I like the longbows. I do shoot recurves. I kind of like the hybrid, to be honest with you. The reflex deflex longbow is my personal favorite. Um, I shoot sock trail bows most of the time. I like the Medora real well. It's a short reflex deflex longbow, but I've been fighting a shoulder injury since February, which has slowed me down a little bit and
Yeah.
changed things around. So I dropped down in bow weight, and I've got a bunch of bows. I've got more bows than I got sense. And I just went through all my bows and to find which one was the easiest on my shoulder for this year. And I settled in on an old bear takedown with the Dacron string. And I can't explain why, but something about it is just soft and it doesn't give my shoulder that jolt. And so that's what I've been shooting as a recoup bow. And it's only 41 pounds too, so it doesn't have a whole lot of weight to it. But for the type of hunting I do, that's plenty of poundage.
Yeah.
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 I,
You
I
normally got to get pretty close with the trad bows.
Absolutely. My hunting shots are, typically 12 to 16 yards is kind of my sweet spot when I set up. So, not pushing too far, not, as quiet as they are, they don't have the speed, but they have that quietness and a little more forgiving. So, those
Right.
close shots you can get away with. Yeah.
So tell us about some of your hunts you've been on. Maybe um, your most memorable hunt that you was on.
Oh man, I've been on a lot of good hunts. Most the most memorial hunts to me though typically are the ones where we weren't real successful. But I've had a lot of a lot of times the adventure's getting there, or once you get in there, the challenge. And I've had some great hunts with my dad where we've absolutely not shot anything. We've done a lot of Colorado elk hunts and stuff like that together when he was younger. And man, we had some great times in the mountains. But one of my favorite hunts ever that him and I went on with, and this story's kind of before the hunt, I guess. We flew out of Indianapolis uh, to Denver, and then jumped in a small plane from Denver to Durango. But we left Indy. It was around 1 a.m. And so by the time we got to Durango, we were beat. It was like 7 a.m. local time or something like that, and we'd been up pretty much all night. And I talked to this lady in the hotel. I talked her into letting us check it in early because we were ready for bed.
Oh
And they let
yeah.
us check. They let us check in, and we went and got some groceries and stuff because an outfitter was going to pick us up at 7 a.m. the next morning. And by that time, Dad was just like, "Hey, I'm beat. I'm going to bed." I'm like, "All right, let's go to bed." So I called the receptionist, and this was way before cell phones. I called the receptionist and said, "Hey, could you give us a 6 a.m. wake up, make sure we're up?" And I set an alarm as well. And we just roll over and we're asleep. And next thing I know, the phone's ringing, and I pick it up and there's nobody there. I'm like, "What's going on?" So I hung it up. I looked at the clock and it said it was 6:40. And oh my gosh, he's going to pick us up at 7 a.m. So I wake Dad up and we're gathering gear and we're dragging it out in this lobby and sitting there, and the outfitter just doesn't show up. I'm like, "What is going on?" So I call him. I'm like, "Hey, you're supposed to pick us up here at 7. It's like 10 after 7. You're not here." He goes, "Well, I didn't think I was supposed to pick you up till tomorrow." I'm like, "Tomorrow?" And it's like, "Well, all right, we'll just stay another night and see you in the morning. So I'm trying to book another room with the hotel guy, and we're arguing over the dates. I don't remember the exact dates, but I'm like, "Yeah, I need to check out on the 18th or whatever." And he goes, "So you need two more nights?" I go, "No, we're just, one more after the night we stayed last night." And he's looking at me real weird. And I just happened to turn around and look out behind him. and instead of getting daylight, it was getting dark. We'd
Oh,
only slept about 2 hours,
oh,
and the phone had went off, and we panicked thinking we were late, but in reality, it was still the same day. But it makes a great story now, and I had to call the outfitter back and explain to him why I was an idiot, and the whole time I'm sure he thought, this guy, what, he don't even know what day it is. How's he going to kill an elk? But it was a good fun memory. It's a good time. Yeah.
yeah. He call you at 6 at night instead of 6 in the morning.
Exactly. Yeah, yeah. We were 12 hours off, but but it made for a great story, great time. Something you don't, I'll always remember that. No matter what
Yeah,
happened. The hunt was kind of a bust. It was hot, it rained every day. The elk weren't bugling, but we did get into some elk and had a couple close calls, but it just didn't happen for us that year. But that's what hunting is.
yeah,
And elk seem to be my nemesis. I've got an elk curse. I've made a bunch of trips and I have yet to shoot an elk. So one of these days it'll come together.
yeah. Things like that. That's why the military uses a 24-hour clock instead of a 12 a.m.
But
p.m.
yeah, there you go. That would have been perfect for me if I'd
Yeah.
have seen it. But and the phone call ended up actually being my wife. My son had crashed his bicycle and broke his arm, and she was calling to tell me about that at the hotel. And evidently it had been ringing for a while before I heard it because by the time I grabbed it, she had already hung up and
Oh,
it was gone on. So yeah,
yeah.
he was
When
fine.
you're that tired, that much asleep,
Oh,
you
it was
sleep through stuff.
it was brutal. Yeah, yeah. But I've done, some of those. That's part of it. Getting there is just part of the adventure. A lot of weird stuff happens like that, and but that's the only time I've ever missed a day, or thought I missed a day.
Yeah,
But yeah, I just came back from Canada in June. I was up there with some guys from all over the place and did a bear hunt up there. We had a great time. That was a good group of guys there. Killed quite a few bears, and I didn't feel a tag, but we had lots of opportunities. And now, just kind of getting ready for deer season. Our opener's on October 1st. I typically don't get super excited about it until about the second or third week. I will hunt some evenings, but it's just so warm, and we've been in
yeah.
drought conditions. This is our second summer of drought, and it's
Now,
it's
where are you
just.
at again?
I'm in West Central Indiana.
Okay,
Um,
India. You're in India.
yeah,
Okay.
so I'm only about 10 miles from the Illinois state line, which is awesome because I can literally hunt either state, any day of the week that I really choose. I can be over there in 20 minutes in a stand from the house. So that's convenient. But it's the same way. Season doesn't open until October 1st. And I hunt pretty small farms, and uh, they just don't respond well to a lot of pressure. So I hold off
Yeah,
until the hunting gets good, or conditions are just right before I get in there.
yeah.
Lots
Some
of
of the
time.
small spots they just don't hold a lot of deer, and
Ab-
um, the one
absolutely.
spot I got that it's mostly night travel, so they don't
Yeah.
go there too much during the day. So, um, that's nice about trail cameras. We found it's like, okay, we got a nice buck comes through there, and a lot of does come through there, but it's between like 10 o'clock at night and 5 o'clock in the morning.
Yep. Yeah, it's kind of the same situation where I'm at. I tend to hold a lot of summer range deer. I hold a tremendous amount of deer through the summer months, a lot of green feed. But after everything's dried up and harvested, I don't have the big oaks. I have some oaks, but not what the neighbors have. So it holds a lot of the deer over that way. And once again, they're coming through at night for more rut activity. And just like you said, the trail cameras prove it.
Yeah,
I'm a trail cam addict. I run a bunch of them. Um, Obviously I do use them for hunting purposes, but I'm just addicted to the pictures and seeing what's out there. Uh, I can't say that they've really truly helped me like in an exact hunting moment or situation where, oh my goodness, I need to be there right now to hunt this deer. But it's sure nice knowing they're there, and it does help pattern them a little bit as well.
yeah, that way you can see where they're going, and then you can, maybe figure out some way to get them to come there during the daytime.
Exactly. Yep. Yep. My biggest problem is getting to them without blowing them out. It's small
Oh,
woods. Uh, they're there. They bed in there, but these are little small islands of woods that I'm hunting a lot. They're just 10, 15 acres. You can't get into the really good spots of the woodlot to even hunt. You just got to hunt the fringes and hope for the best. If you try to push in, you'll blow everything completely out the
Yeah.
other side. It's just gone. Yeah.
Yeah, where I'm at, there's row trees along the fence, around three sides of the property. Well, not even three sides. There's two sides and then part of the other one. And that's the only trees.
Yeah.
Right in the corners, there's a little bunch of trees in the corners, but other than that, it's just row trees along the fence line, and
Yep.
so there's they you got to catch them going through.
Hmm.
They're not going to
Yep.
hold up there, and that's the bad part about that one is, and the other
Yeah.
property has no trees on the property. It's all corn. It's the other side of the river where all the trees are at,
Yep.
and or the creek, but we don't have
I've got
permission
a
to hunt there. So
I've got 178 acres and only about 20 of it's wooded. So I'm kind of in the same type of situation.
yeah,
Once the crops come out, it really concentrates the critters into small areas, and you got to be careful on them. I do hunt a lot
yeah,
of public land too. We got some pretty good sized public lands around here, and I enjoy to hunt them. But it can be, uh, it's a trial of patience for sure. I mean,
yeah,
it's pressured tremendously, and there's good deer there, but they are educated. I mean, they know what's going on for sure. But
yeah. I don't
it's
take them, but one or 2 days, and they know they're being hunted.
absolutely, yeah. I mean, a lot of the deer, especially the public land I hunt in Illinois, it's the only place I've ever seen it, but they'll literally walk around looking up in the trees. And I've never seen deer do it anywhere else but there. And I think they spend as much time looking up as they do looking at ground level. It's crazy. And it's
Yeah.
just from pressure.
Well, we've got one farm that's they're it's the public property or public hunting, but you kind of pretty much go through
Mhm.
their farm area to get access to get back to there. Otherwise, you go through the river to get to it. And here in Nebraska in the wintertime, you're not going down the river
Yeah.
because it could be froze over. But there, the deer look up because there's
Mhm.
so much pressure in there, and they've been educated. They look up, and
Yep.
um, one of the forests, Fontenelle Forest, had never been hunted, and they want that back in the 60s, you couldn't see 20 feet. The cover was there. Well, here in it, not too long ago, maybe 10, 15 years ago, you could see 100 yards because the deer ate everything they could get up to eat. Just so
Browse
many of
line.
them.
Yeah.
And leaves, branches, the people live down there. They can't grow anything in the yard because they eat the roses, they eat anything that they'll grow because there's so many.
Yep.
So they're going to have a hunt, and everybody was in uproars like, oh, it'd be just like you just go out and shoot them.
Yep.
Day one, yes. Day two, no. I talked to the guy who was down there. He says, day one, yep. Day two, nope. They knew they were being hunted.
Absolutely. Yeah. They do some state parks down here around here for reduction hunts as well for population control. They've hunted most of them for quite a few years now. But when they first started doing those, it was the exact same scenario. The browse line, anything the deer could reach to the ground was pretty much gone. They ate all the browse.
Yeah,
And the deer wise did they shot a bunch of them right off the get go. But then after that, they wisened up quick. But it's the same way here, though. I live in a small town. There's about 150 people that live in my town. There's nothing here. There's no gas stations. There's no stores. There's absolutely nothing. But we have a lot of what we call town deer. And I grew up here. When I was a kid, we never had deer in town. But now, any given evening, we can look out in the backyard. There'll be 6 or 8 of them eating the roses, and you're spraying the roses every night with deterrent to keep them away and things like that. And it's crazy. I watch them every day because they're out there, and you can walk up 10 yards from those deer in the summer and they have no interest in you. But as soon as the leaves start falling, kind of like they're doing now, we've been in this drought, so the woods are opening up. As soon as those woods open up, you can't get within 100 yards of those deer. And they're not hunted. They don't have any pressure, but it's like a switch goes off on them in the fall
yeah.
when those leaves start dropping that they know that all of a sudden they don't feel safe anymore. And the good thing is they don't come up and eat my flowers near as much either. But
Yeah, I know what you mean by a small town. The village I live in's got 168 people in it.
yeah, yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah, that's how
it,
we are. It's about 8 miles to the nearest gas station, or grocery store or anything. We do have a little local bar that's just outside of town that sells food. That's kinda convenient, but other than it, It's just a few homes, and uh, it's like three families that kind of make up most of the area. To be honest, with mine
Oh
being
yeah,
one of them, and most of us have been here for generation after generation. So
yeah. We have a church and a couple of trucking companies and um post office.
we do have a
That's it.
church. We do have a church. They closed our post office about 20 years ago because it just wasn't viable to keep it open with no more people than there were. So uh, our
Well,
post office actually it used to, you ever, I'm sure you've watched The Waltons on TV, you know, it had the post office and the general store inside of it. That was our post office. You could go in there and buy a pound of ham and a loaf of bread and check your mail all at the one stop shop, so to
oh yeah.
speak. Yeah, it was just a little bitty thing, but I wouldn't
Well,
change it. It gave us, by growing up here, we didn't have cable TV wasn't offered or anything like that. So as a kid in this area, we spent a lot of our time in the woods shooting bows and BB guns and 22 rifles and whatnot,
yeah,
and kind of I think some of that is what really ingrained the woods and deer hunting, especially for me. It was just something that we did a lot of because there was not much else to do. Gave us a lot of time to study critters and uh, paddle up and down the creek in a canoe and whatnot, and I wouldn't have changed it at all. My kids now, you know, they want to sit in front of a computer or whatever, and um, I think they missed out on a lot of those outdoor experiences just because of what they have available to them indoors now.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It's kind of nice to have this stuff indoors that you can do, but it's nice being outside and
absolutely.
um, you just be outside. Instead of doing the archery game on the TV, do it in for real life.
Right.
You actually
Yep.
develop a skill.
Yep.
The the Wii's or whatever the video games that you're playing archery is nothing like shooting a real bow.
No.
You just don't get that feeling of that arrow going off and the skill it takes to actually do it. And
It's just magical. That flight of the arrow to me is it's almost magical, you know, and it has been for as long as I can remember, and I hope it never goes away. I just love that feeling of the flight of the arrow. It's just I can't really put it in words, but it definitely feels for me. It always feels magical. You know, you just when you pick a little spot out and you want to put an arrow in it and you release that string and the arrow arcs and it sticks dead center, the dead center. You're just like it's just a beautiful thing.
yeah, yeah, there's a lot to that. And there's always a lot of archers that need help and stuff like that.
Sure.
And that's why I kind of started the Archer Talk 101 Facebook group, because that's for archers to
Yep.
help them learn. And it's not for selling anything, so you're not selling anything in there. It's all just for education. And this video will be posted in there as well,
Yep.
so you can watch it there. And I also have my YouTube channel, Learn to Fix It Yourself, which is all kinds of stuff.
I've seen it.
After 69 years old,
Yeah.
I have a lot of things, so I just record everything. And somebody learns something, great. If not, hey, I have fun making a video.
Love
Um,
YouTube. I've learned how to fix more things off YouTube than you could possibly imagine. But
yeah,
yeah, I mean, you know, just like you said, your 101 group on Facebook. There's a lot of good Facebook pages and stuff like that to help do. But there's a lot of good organizations too. You know, Compton
right,
Traditional Bow Hunters, Professional Bow Hunter Society. They do so much to promote and learn. Especially the Professional Bow Hunter Society, you know that's their motto: knowledge through experience, and passing
right,
that knowledge and experience down to that younger generation is tremendous. Uh, and the internet and Facebook groups and YouTube and all that stuff is great and wonderful, but I'm still a firm believer, but that nothing can replace sitting down with somebody that's actually been there and done it,
right,
face to face, and learning from them. You get you ahead of the game when you're, especially if you're just starting out in shooting or hunting or stand placement or whatever. Uh, you can you can learn more from a veteran that's done it in an hour than you could learn in 100 hours of something on the
right.
internet.
Well, and you can watch live videos. I got several of them out there that teach you how to do different things. I
Yep.
can show you, I can shoot, I can teach you what to do, but you go to shoot, you don't know what you're doing. You need somebody to look at it.
Yep.
And that's where, take a video with your phone and
The
upload it to the
slow,
Facebook Arch Tuck 101 Facebook group, because we'll take a look at it and give you pointers.
absolutely.
And just
The slow motion features on phones to record shots. It is amazing to critique form.
Oh yeah.
It's all right there in black and white. Now my form's awful. I'll be the first to admit it. I'm sloppy. Um, I'm I just am. I wish I had a better form, but I don't. But it works for me. I've done it so long the way I've shot that it's ingrained. And I I have a bad left elbow. I busted my left elbow out in 1984 on a rock climbing accident, and I can only straighten it out about, I don't know, 65% of the way. So my left arm is about 6 inches shorter than my right arm. I'm naturally left-handed, but I always shot right-handed bows. But after I healed up from that injury with that being so short, I was down to like a 25-inch draw length, and it's like this isn't working. So I switched over and started shooting left-handed in 1988, and I've shot there ever since. But even with that elbow being jacked up, I my anchor is odd. Instead of my hand being here, my hand is almost here when I anchor because I can't rotate that arm in. My left arm, I showed you with my right there, but you get the idea.
Yeah.
And so it's kind of an odd, sloppy looking thing, but it's worked for me. I'm definitely not a target archer by no means. I love to shoot 3Ds. I love to go to the big 3D shoots, but I am not real competitive either. Typically, I'm the guy that never turns in his scorecard, and we're having, we're laughing and goofing off more from the stakes than we are being serious about it. Uh,
And
and
that's all right. That's the thing that you can do. If you go
yeah,
to a 3D shoot and you're just there to shoot, you pay your money to
absolutely.
shoot at the targets and walk around and have a good time.
Absolutely. We Cloverdale Traditional Archery Nationals is kind of my local shoot just down the road, and I've camped with some of those guys for over 20 years and shot with them there, and we have such a good time. And because we don't keep score, keep serious, we can do silly things too. If we want to launch one from 10 yards beyond the stake or whatever, we're free to do that, and it just keeps it interesting. But I love the 3D shoots. I go to as many of them as I possibly can, and the Tennessee Classic, the Kentucky Trad Fest, Great Lakes Lombo Invitational up in Michigan. Love all those shoots, and the people there are just in all of them are just really an amazing groups that put on a heck of a show. Lots of fun.
Yeah, there's a lot of events out that you can go to and a lot of fun
Yep.
and every once in a while I'll talk to somebody that's got a different organization that's doing something a little bit different
Hmm.
and it's always interesting all the different aspects and you touch somebody there's no club around so they start one
Right.
and then it takes off and now it's a big club and there was none until they started one
Yep.
and if you don't have something in your area start one
Absolutely. And
get somebody else to shoot.
a lot of the smaller clubs, or at least here, have kind of went under. It used to within 20 minutes, there was 5 or 6 different archery clubs with ranges and stuff, and there's really only 3 left. And kind of the same old sad story, unfortunately, with all of them. With aging groups, it was only every club I've been involved with is kind of the same thing. You have a club, you have an archery league or whatever. It seems like there's 8 or 10 guys that do all the work, and everybody else just comes and shoots and has fun. But
Yeah.
but a lot of those guys that were putting that stuff on and putting the extra effort in it, they've just gotten to an age where they're not capable of doing that anymore, and got to get more of that younger generation to step up and help some of those clubs out so we can keep them going.
Yeah, that's the kind of key that, the club's got to keep catering to, the new archer.
Yep.
You want to have a big program for new archers,
Yep.
not that you ignore the other ones, but you need to have a lot of the new archers in there, getting them started and making it so that it's not so much work for those that, come in and next thing you know, you're putting all these hours in and all these hours in. And you know what, I could have got a part-time job and paid the non-working member fee. It's like
Absolutely.
I'm just going to pay more because I don't
Yep.
have time to do it now. Because you know depends on what you're making, how much they're charging.
Yeah.
It's just I'm lucky here. I could go shoot in my backyard.
Oh, absolutely. I've got my own little range. Actually, I've got 2 ranges. I've got a stationary range, then I got a small 3D trail through my little woods out back that I have different stations to shoot from. So,
I don't have
yeah.
that much room, but I do have a 4 foot square target in the backyard
Yeah.
up against the garage.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I've got I don't know. I think I have 8 stations on my trail, and then I've got half a dozen stationary targets here in the backyard that I most of the time I shoot those from my deck. Actually, it's just kind of an little elevation, and for that tree stand type practice shooting there. Or if I'm lazy and just don't want to walk very far, because my trail kind of goes down a holler and through the woods a little bit, it give
Oh
you a
yeah,
little exercise walking it. Where these I can just shoot. If I just want to shoot 5 or 6 arrows or whatever, I can launch them right from the back deck and go right on. And I've been fortunate in life to always live somewhere where I could do that. I could just shoot in the backyard because I shoot daily. Well, I say daily. There's very few days I miss. If it's like ridiculously cold, if it's 3 below 0 or something like that, and the targets are
yeah,
frozen up, I'm not shooting them because I've done it and you just bust arrows on them. But
yeah.
if the weather's decent where I can shoot, I'm shooting a few arrows at least every single day. And I'm such an addict that sometimes I'll turn my floodlights on when I get home at late in the evening when the daylight hours get shorter, and I'll actually shoot in the dark under the floodlights in the backyard just to get a few arrows in and stay tuned up.
Yeah, it's kind of nice when you can do that. Not everybody has access to
Yeah.
that. The clubs. If you have access to the club, you get a key and go down and shoot. But
Yep.
you got to drive down there, and if it's late before you get down there, then it's actually late when you get there. And
Right.
the one club I was in, it seemed like we're busier at 10 o'clock than it was at 5 or 6.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Ever had more free
you want to be
time?
by
Yeah. Yeah.
yourself. Yeah,
Yep.
you want to be there, be by yourself, go down between 5 and 7. After that, it gets busy.
Yeah. Yeah. It's uh, and guys stop by here and shoot all the time. I've got a lot of friends. Somebody's always wheeling in their truck saying, "Let's shoot some arrows," and so we'll go shoot arrows. But that's kind of nice. There's a group of guys. They call themselves the Grumpy Old Archers, and they're based out of Terre Haute, Indiana, and they're all retired. But they've kind of drugged me in with them. I'm not retired, but they said I qualify anyway because I'm grumpy enough. But we get together and we shoot a lot at each other's houses. We kind of like host a shoot once a week at each other's house. So we bounce around, have a good time. Uh,
That
a
sounds
lot
like
of
a lot of
laughs.
fun.
It is. It's a good time. We have breakfast every Wednesday, and we shoot somewhere every Wednesday afternoon.
Yeah, too bad I'm too far away.
Yeah, there you go. Well, if you're ever in the area,
Yeah, I'm in Nebraska,
yeah.
between Omaha and Lincoln, and I used to live in South Bend, Indiana.
Okay. Yep.
I
Yeah.
worked at Allied Bendix was there in South Bend,
Hmm.
and then I we bought a house in Mishawaka, which is too far away.
Yeah.
Then I drive down to, oh, I'm drawing a blank what city it was, down about 150 miles away, because I speed skated and I'd skated for their club down there.
Ah.
So I'm driving down there a couple times a week, and
Yeah.
a lot of fun.
Absolutely. Yep. I like that. I go to Southern Michigan. I hunt in Southern Michigan a little bit and go to several shoots and stuff up there. Usually not too far from South Bend, so we have some good
Yeah,
times up in that area.
yeah. The weird part is, like, where I lived, in the apartment I lived, it wasn't too far from Notre Dame, a little bit north and a little bit east of Notre Dame, and it was like 3 miles to the Michigan border.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah.
weird part is, Michigan changed daylight savings time.
Yep.
Where I was at didn't.
Yep.
So the people who lived in Michigan had to have two clocks, because one for this time of year, one for this time of year, because
It,
it changed.
it's the same way where I live now. I'm 8 miles from the Illinois state line. Illinois is Central Time, so I cross that state line into Illinois sometimes 5 6 times a day, and I gain or lose an hour every single time that I do it. But I've lived on this time zone for so long that I'm just really used to being on one side. So the
Yeah,
entire 21 years I lived in Illinois, I worked in Indiana, so it was the same way there, constantly, um, juggling time zones. But one thing I learned really quick about that is cell phones. Cell phones just pick up the nearest tower, and a lot of times you might be in Indiana, but you might be running off an Illinois cell tower or vice versa. So you really can't ever trust your cell phone for time because you're not sure which time zone it's actually running off of at the moment. And that can cause some confusion.
yeah, yeah. because you'd been an hour earlier, an hour late.
Yeah, hour early's not too bad. An hour late's
No,
usually not forgiven. So
no.
yeah, I've
Yeah, it'd be nice if they just would time zone and don't change time,
yeah,
daylight savings time, because that, twice a year it messes up,
yeah. Indiana
what's
never
going
did
on.
until about 10 years ago. We didn't have daylight savings time. We always just stayed the same. It never
Yeah,
moved. It was all right, I guess. But when we
that's
did
when I
that,
lived there. Yeah,
when we did that, we would catch up to Illinois. So half the year we would be on the same time as Central Time, and the other half a year we would be off. But now we're always an hour different. But well, that's all right. That's not a it's not a deal breaker. It is like I said, it is convenient being right there. It living on those state lines really opens up some doors if you
yeah.
for hunting purposes anyway, because you can do a non-resident tag and hunt over there every day if that's what you want to do. And I've been blessed to be able to hunt both states for, gosh, I don't know, probably close to 30 years. It's been a long time. And uh,
So you probably got some pretty good land that you're used to hunting, and
yeah, I lease some property in Indiana. That's it's small, but it's good. It's good hunting at a time. I'm in Park County, Indiana, which Park County is kind of one of those famous counties for deer in Indiana, kind of like Pike County of Illinois is. Everybody wants to hunt Park County. We went to a one buck rule about 15 years ago or so,
yeah,
and so you can only kill one buck regardless of weapon, and you're done for the year. And that is exploded our age structure so well. We have so many more older, mature deer now because of that, and it's good and bad. It's brought on a big wave of leasing the last 10 years ago. Now, since the bigger deer are coming out of here, everybody wants to be here, so they're leasing up property. I lease property, so I guess I can't complain about it. But
yeah,
the reality is, if you're not leasing, you're probably not hunting. It's got to that point, and it's disheartening because leasing has pushed a lot of opportunities out for local people, especially local youth. And I feel bad for that, but it's an unfortunate reality that's not going to change. Once that got started, there's no stopping it. Um, there's too many dollars involved, and
right.
you can't blame Farmer Joe down the road from taking a few $1,000s for this guy to hunt when he was just letting the neighbor hunt for free. Um, as sad as that is to say,
Yeah,
it's just business. It's just business. Yeah.
and
And we don't have a whole lot of public land here in there's a lot of public land in southern Indiana, but the northern half of the state, it's sparse, and what there is pretty small. But luckily, right here, we have a new project going on, um, and they're buying up all the river corridor along the Wabash River and making a giant fish and wildlife area. It's called the Healthy River Initiative Program, and when it's done, it'll be the biggest section of public land in the state. It'll be like 80 some miles long and about a mile wide. But they're not using an eminent domain to purchase this land. They're just knocking on doors saying, "Hey, you want to sell? We're buying." And so it's pot marked. There's 100 acres over here and 500 acres over there and whatnot, and big gaps in between. Eventually, the state will get it all, but it probably won't be in our lifetime. May not even be in our kids' lifetime. The way it's going, but the target area is to consume it all from approximately Sullivan, Indiana, all the way up the Wabash to Sugar Creek, and then up Sugar Creek to Crawfordsville, Indiana. So it'll be a huge strip, and it's for recreation, obviously hunting and fishing purposes. But the big primary goal is to preserve the watershed. There's so much erosion and runoff going into the Wabash. The Wabash is a big river. It's 512 miles long, and it's quarter mile wide where I'm at, and they farmed right up next to the edges of it forever, which has caused erosion and it's silting
right,
in and bank damage. So by bringing all this stuff back into this project here, they're restructuring the banks and letting everything grow back up along them and stabilizing them. And it's a win-win for everybody, especially for outdoorsmen.
right.
Yeah,
Well, I'm glad to hear they're not coming in and saying, "Oh, we're taking it. We're in an eminent domain. We got to have it and steal
absolutely.
it."
Yeah.
They got to pay for it, but still, I don't want to sell.
Yeah.
But now you're forcing me to sell property I don't want to sell. So
Exactly. And they're not doing that. It's all just um, if you want to sell, the state's buying. And they also have a second program with that too, where you can actually enroll your land into the program and but still retain ownership of it. But there's some speculations. You can't farm it anymore. Or you can't build on it, and there are some speculations, and that doesn't open it up to the public either. It's still completely yours. It's just in the restoration program. I think they're doing that to kind of cohorse next generation into selling it.
yeah,
Joe dies and his grandson inherits it or whatever. Well, he can't farm it. He can't do anything with it now. So maybe he'll sell it
yeah,
to this day. It does, while it does preserve it, it does kind of kill some of the property value, unfortunately.
yeah, because you got less property.
Yeah, a lot of that stuff though is landlocked. You can't access it without boat in the river. So there are some honey holes down through there if a guy's willing to work at them, but some of them take some work. You're dropping the boat in at 3 in the morning and running upstream for an hour and a half and hoping you don't hit anything in the dark and slipping in and
Yeah,
honey. But
yeah,
it does make for some fun adventures.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know we've got some land rent. You got a creek that runs, right through here,
Mhm.
and at the last flood we had, it wiped out a lot of the bank.
Yeah.
The one farmer's field, I think, where he'd planted before the flood, and I think he lost probably about 20 feet into his field.
Yeah.
So the beans are planted right up to it, and she's not going to be able to harvest it because
Yep.
he can't get his tractor that close to the edge.
Right. Okay. Yep.
Yeah, it may
Yeah.
just cave in
And
and
a lot of that's happened because they have farmed too close. There's no root systems to support that stuff. That's why it washes out a lot. You need that barrier in between the watersheds.
yeah,
The Wabash is big, and the bottoms for the Wabash, they're several miles wide. When it floods, we've got it looks like a giant lake down there. It could be 2 miles wide of water flooding in the fields, and then when that
yeah,
recedes, it pushes all kinds of silt into the river, and just the way it works. And uh, it's it causes issues, farming issues, obviously, but it causes issues for the wildlife as well. I mean, it pushes them either all out of the river bottoms, so you've took thousands of acres that were covered in deer and turkey that you've completely pushed those animals a mile, sometimes 2 miles away to higher ground,
yeah,
and it creates some issues there as well. And we have that the EHD. We fight the EHD every 5 or 6 years, and most people prefer, they think of the EHD for dry years, which is true in a lot of places. But with our river flooding and receding like it does, it creates all those stagnant pools, which gives you the same effect as a dry year, only it's a wet year causing it, but it
yeah,
creates that midge, and then the DHD wipes it out. And I've been crossing my fingers this year. We've been in such a drought again, and the creeks and lakes and ponds are all shriveled up, and there have not been any EHD locally, but everywhere around us have just been reporting deer after deer after deer, and we're unfortunately we're due again. It's been about six
yeah.
years, and it seems every 6 or 7 years is when it hits us.
Well, the population is going to get controlled one way or another.
Absolutely, yeah. Our issue is we haven't. 2012, we probably lost somewhere between 50 and 60% of the deer in this area from EHD. It was an awful outbreak, and we haven't recovered from that. And we've already had one outbreak since then. And so I don't know. I don't know if we'll ever get back to where we were at in the late 90s, early 2000s. We were chock full of deer back then. Um, I I don't want to say we're overpopulated by no ways, because we're not, but we have a very healthy deer population. With all the farmland, we have a great mix of farmland and hardwoods, so we can support a lot of deer in this area. Um,
Well, that's good.
but there obviously is a limit. Nobody wants to be hitting two or three on the way to work with their truck every day.
Yeah, that's probably they get too many, then
Yep.
they're just out there and especially come rutting time. They're
Yes.
running all over the place, and you gotta be extra careful because they'll
Yep.
just run right out in front of you. And uh,
Yeah. I mean, they farm right up to the road here, so a lot of my roads that I'm traversing, it's corn 3 foot off the pavement on both sides, and you don't see them until they step out, and it's like, oh goodness,
right, yeah, there's no seeing them in the shoulder.
nope. So you guys got the big turkey populations in Nebraska, though. You guys,
Yeah,
we
yeah,
we've our turkey population has been on a pretty good decline the last
oh yeah,
decade or so. Nobody's really sure why. Um, but I got a lot of friends that go to Nebraska and hunt every year. I've never hunted Nebraska, but I know that's kind of the hot spot that everybody locally here is talking about going for turkey hunting anymore.
yeah. We used to have about 3 dozen. Um, I'd see in the field right at, before you get onto the highway, which is a mile away.
Mhm.
And I haven't seen him since the flood. I haven't seen him, and I hadn't seen him before then. And our neighbor said, "Yeah, she's seen somebody out there just shooting him,
Oh,
just shooting him to shoot him." And it's like,
dang it!
good thing I didn't see it because I'd have called the game warden,
Absolutely, yeah,
turn them in, because
yep,
it's kind of nice seeing those turkeys. But
yeah,
we had a pretty massive flood. We were flooded in for a few days,
hmm,
and it was so much over the water, the road, that it was a river,
yeah,
and logs were going over the road and everything else. So, um, yeah, it flooded pretty bad,
yeah,
and even the main highway out here had water over it, and that was a lot of flood, and that's what took
yeah,
out a lot of the bank,
yeah,
on both sides, and you can see a lot of it where it eroded in both sides of it. It eroded because um, it just takes all that stuff away. And uh, in fact, the four-wheeler I have, my son and the other guys, at the not this last one, but the one before, they found this four-wheeler in the flood, and they pulled it out. And they got that four-wheeler pulling it out, and it still got it stuck, and got a truck pulling forward, got it out, and I've gone through a whole bunch of work, getting it fixed up, and I still got more work on it, but it runs pretty good now.
good.
After
The
pulling the
water gives and the
carburetor
water
apart,
takes
cleaning
away.
it. Yeah, all
Yeah.
kinds of sand in any little crevice. There was sand or
Oh,
pulling out,
I
and
bet
the
so.
carburetor, I pulled it out a couple times to get it cleaned, and even the valve from the gas tank. There's a tube that was plugged full up, so I had to take the gas cap apart and clean the tube out so it'd have it could vent the gas tank. And yeah.
Yeah, a lot of work.
Yeah, and
It's
now it's pushed down the rivers. So the four wheelers pushed down the river.
yeah, it's nuts when the Wabash floods like that. You never know what's gonna, it'll come up and cover the entire bottom several miles wide through there. And when it recedes, there's always, you never know what you're going to see, a washing machine or a refrigerator or whatever will just be laying out in the middle of the field. And it's where it's been washed down from somewhere
Yeah.
way upstream. And
Well,
my hunting property, the old Wabash Erie Canal, which was a canal that traversed for several hundred miles through Indiana, comes right through uh, the west section of it. The old canal's still there. Well, it's dry, but anytime it floods, it becomes a river channel.
yeah.
And man, that thing is just always full of crazy stuff that you just can't believe what gets washed up and then left in there from the flood. Every time
Oh
it
yeah.
floods, we're just hauling out truckload after truckload of miscellaneous stuff in there. Never find a four wheeler or anything good, but a lot of junk.
Well, and just after the flood, um, that was back in April, first part of May, I forget what it was. I was walking around the field, and I come across one of the green 8-ounce Coke bottles,
Yeah, yeah.
unbroke.
Yep.
Wasn't broke. It's like in perfect condition. It's full of
Tr-
sand. So
Here's a
I
funny
picked it up and cleaned it out.
here's a funny story for you. The Coke bottle with the hourglass shape was invented just south of me in Terre Haute, Indiana, is where that was invented at.
Oh
And
yeah.
the sand that makes that glass green was dug about 15 miles south of my house here. There
Oh
was there
cool.
was something about that sand that caused that glass to turn green. So Coca-Cola was buying all of it up to build those bottles.
Huh.
Yep. There's a good
Yeah.
chance that part of that bottle originated just down the street here.
Yeah, that's pretty good. Yeah, yeah. I didn't realize. Um, realize that was come from there. It was the sand that made it green. I didn't know how they
Yeah.
got it green, but
Yep.
the certain chemicals in the sand, I guess, then
Yep.
turned it green.
Absolutely. Yep.
I don't know what it's worth, but it's basically uh, almost a mint, and it come down the river,
Yeah.
I picked it up out of the field. Which if I hadn't picked it up, it would probably got run over by the one of the farming
Disc would have
tractors, and
got it or something.
yeah, I would have broke
Yep.
it there, and
Yeah.
so maybe I saved the farmer's tire from getting cut
There you go.
on the
It's hard to
bottom.
believe how many thousands of those things there are laying around under the ground or the soil. Most of them I'm sure broken, but I'd hate to guess
Yeah,
how many of those Coca-Cola bottles have been made over the years and scattered around the world.
I know in the garden I have every once in a while I go through and look. It's like I'll get pick up another piece of random
Yep.
glass, might be from pot or some. I'm just constantly picking up stuff, out of there, and it's like, how's it still coming up? You know,
Yeah. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. It's there's here where I live just to the north of me, the north side of my property used to be a brick and tile factory and sewer tile, and it closed up during the depression. But you can't dig a hole around here without hitting a brick or a piece of tile. I mean, anywhere you want to dig a hole, you're going to have to bust through that stuff because it's like they backfilled everywhere with it. And
yeah,
there's places even back through the woods where I don't know why or how or to explain it, but there's just big piles of that sewer tile stacked up like they were waiting to be delivered, and the woods have just consumed them. Grow right back around them. And I've actually got one that I use it as a deer blind. I sit up on top of it all the time. It's about 12 foot tall, just this big stack of sewer tile, and it's just this perfect platform right in the woods.
oh, well, they put it there just for you, right?
Evidently, yeah. Probably wasn't even any deer here then. We didn't
Probably
have a whole
not.
lot of deer here till until the 70s really, but there were a few deer, but you did them guys didn't we did well. Our first deer season was in 1951. November 1st, 1951 was our first archery season here in Indiana. And Ed Pekaitis, who just lived across the river from me when I was a kid, he shot the first deer on Indiana, the first day of Indiana's first season, first modern bow kill in the state and stuff. And he was a good guy. He's been passed away for quite a few years, but he shared a lot of information with me and helped me get going. But my point being is, from 1951, so we're 73 years into deer seasons here, and they killed half a dozen deer or whatever in those early years, and now we're killing 150,000 deer in the state. It's
Yeah,
it's it's crazy how much conservation has improved in 75 years here. And I'm sure a lot of states are the same way. I know Illinois season wasn't until a little later. I don't think they had their first deer season until 63. So, even a little less there. And, Illinois is so well known for whitetails.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and they say at the turn of the century they didn't never thought that whitetail would be a viable game
Nope.
animal because there
Nope.
wasn't enough of them. And now look at it. I know guys when I had my store, probably about 20 years ago, they shot 20 deer
Yes.
legally, shot that many.
Yep.
There's like the bonus tags, two deer on
Yep.
one tag, antlerless, of course. And you feel those, go buy another one. Feel those, go buy
Yep.
another one. Feel those, go buy another one. Um,
That's how it
now
was here for a long time.
the issue only issue so many of those tags, but you can get, if you want to go buy 10 of them, if you're early enough, you get
Yeah.
10 tags, shoot, you know, 10 to 20
Our,
deer. But
ours
I
are
don't
on a
want to
county
process
by
that
county.
many.
Ours are on a county by county basis. So they break every county down, do a study on it, and determine how many antlerless deer they want to harvest, and they issue a certain amount of tags for that. So here in Park County, we're currently a 3 bonus tags, but you can kill 2 with your bow, 3 bonus tags, so you can still kill 5 deer with archer equipment. Before the big EHD outbreak in 2012, we were a bonus county of 8. So, they've
Oh,
reduced it quite a bit since then. And it needed reduced because it did wipe out the population pretty hard. But
yeah,
I don't know too many guys, though, that are killing more than 2 or 3 deer a year. Most folks can only eat so many of them. And uh,
right.
with us being a 1 buck rule, seems like most people, after they kill a buck, they kind of really slow down on the amount of hours they're putting into deer hunting. I'm kind of the same way. I'm guilty of that too. It seems it's hard to keep keep hunting seriously when you don't have that buck tag in your pocket anymore.
Oh yeah, because
That's
a monster buck's gonna come by,
never fails. Never
yeah,
fails. Yep.
and you gotta let it walk.
Yep.
You don't get caught doing anything like that.
Absolutely. And but it makes you think though, it also on the other side of that is in that early season when those bucks are coming by, you're thinking, that's a pretty good buck, but it, you have to wait a little bit harder before you drop the
Yeah,
string. And I've had some regrets on a couple of them. It's like, why did I shoot this deer in October when I've got the whole month of November where the good rut is, and now I'm not going to have a buck tag. And but all in all, you got to be happy with your
yeah.
decision because that's what it is. That's your buck for the year. Yep.
I know when I first started hunting, it was you had two tags. So you can only get two deer a year.
Yep.
And um, archer is always either sex.
Yep.
Muzzleloader is always either sex. Rifle might be a buck only or a doe only.
Yep.
So there you could be limited, but you know, you could have two archery tags, but couldn't have a muzzleloader and a rifle. You don't have two total. So
Hmm.
if you got a rifle, then you could have one other one.
Yep.
And then they come up with the season choice, which was it's to get so many deer, and then those were antlerless only.
Yeah. We it was just for the longest time. It was in Indiana. You could get an archery tag, a firearm tag, and a muzzleloader tag. Archery tag was either sex. Uh, Firearm tag was buck only, and muzzleloader season was either sex. But you could only kill two bucks total on the year. And I don't remember what year it was. It had to be in the late '80s. They came out with a second archery tag where you could get two archery tags. They were both either sex, but you could only kill one buck with them. As weird as that sounds. So if you
Oh,
killed a buck, your other tag was automatically an antlerless tag. But they were both considered either sex tags for just for warding purposes. And then in the late '80s, early '90s, man, the deer population just it exploded here, and so they started giving out the bonus tags for firearms, and it was actually a lottery. You had to put in for the state, and they had a drawing, computer generated, whatever, and they picked names out. And if you won it, you got a doe tag, and eventually over time, because there was only so many of them that were allocated over time, not enough people were putting in them to get all the tags, so they had leftovers, and they were just giving them away to first come first serve, and they'd have a certain date for that, and people would be lined up at the little sportsman's center, for 100 people deep trying to get one of them bonus tags. They would only do it in one store per county so that they didn't sell duplicates. And I can remember going to work one day at Montezuma, and there must have been 100 guys lined up there waiting to get that second doe tag, and that went on for quite a few years, and the population still continued to grow. So now they just buy them. It's pretty much as you can buy a lot of them. I have a lifetime license for the state, which I bought when I was a kid. I bought it in I think I bought it in 1986, and it covers every tag for every animal and small game, anything in the state. I'm good for. And since we are our bonus tags are by county. Um, if I was willing to travel around, I mean, I could realistically have like 400 and some tags in my pocket every year. Four for this county and six for that county and two for this county. I'd have to travel all over the state to do it, and it's not realistic. But in theory, I do have that many tags every year. So,
you don't have the time to shoot that many deer.
man, I'd have to have a refrigerated warehouse. Yeah, it's not it's not realistic. Even in my county, we can kill enough deer that it's more than what I can justify using here at the house. Now, I had 6 kids, so when I was a younger man and had a house full of kids, we ate a lot of deer. I mean, we
Yeah.
I'd kill 4 or 5 deer a year then because we would consume 4 or 5 deer easily a year. Now it's just me and the wife, and you know, 1, 2 deer is plenty to get us through. So I
Yeah.
try not to be greedy. If you're not gonna if you don't need it, why shoot it? That kind of thing. And I have donated a few deer to some uh, organizations and some people that were down on their luck and whatnot. But for the most part, I just try to shoot 2 deer a year anymore. And put them in the freezer, and we've actually still got a little bit of deer left right now, which surprises me because normally by now we're getting down to the bottom of the freezer, but still got a little bit in there that's going into this new season.
Well, that's always good to have a little bit left so you don't
Yeah,
completely run out, but you don't want to have too much left over
exactly. Yeah,
before you start filling it up again
it's a fine line, right? Yeah,
because you like to start eating that new one,
right. Yeah, yeah,
the
yeah.
nice fresh one.
And and I'm at a point in my life, I guess, where I just like to be out there. I mean, I like to see the deer. I like to watch the deer. If I don't shoot a deer, so be it. Uh, I just like to be in the woods with my bow and enjoying the show.
Yeah, yeah, that's the best part is just being out there and
Absolutely.
sitting there and just watching and listening and relaxing.
Yep. Yeah.
Yeah, that's the best part.
There's nothing else quite like sitting in the dark and waiting on the woods to wake up in the morning. You know, and the birds start chirping, and the sounds just gradually work their ways up louder and louder and louder, and it's a great feeling. And if you're
Well,
lucky, a big buck comes walking through a few minutes later.
yeah, well, and the reverse when I was out one time and you don't hear a lot, but this one place I was at, the birds were chirping, the squirrels and rabbits, they were all scurrying all around, and then all of a sudden, completely quiet. And like nothing was moving. It's like,
Mhm.
this is pretty cool.
U- Usually, when that happens to me, there's a bobcat slipping through.
Oh,
Anytime, yeah, anytime one of those cats come around, it just shuts everything off. It's like they all know it's coming and see it or whatever, sense it, but the woods will go quiet like that, and then here'll come a bobcat slinking down the trail.
that was also the same place, and I was middle of the afternoon, I was sitting there, and all of a sudden I heard this big sound go. I look up at the sound, hot air balloon was going over. I didn't hear it come in, and they hit the gas, and you how the sound they make. It's like,
Yeah,
what the what was that? I look up and hot air balloon floating over.
that'd wake you up real quick.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, give you something. There's yeah, and then I'm sure you've had this too, where a bird or something will just land right next to you, and
yeah, absolutely.
if you're in
Yeah,
camo, squirrels can't figure out what you are.
nope, nope. It's uh, yeah, the gray squirrels. The gray squirrels seem to be more curious here than the fox squirrels. But I've had the gray squirrels actually get all the way up and sit on my boot when I'm sitting in a tree stand. You know, just sitting on the toe of my boot, sitting there looking at me. And out west, I don't know if you've ever been out in the mountains, the Rockies and stuff, elk hunting or whatever, mule deer hunting. But they have the camp jays, the camp robbers they call them, and the, those things are they're like they're attracted to people, and it's nuts. You can just sit there and kind of hold your hand out with a little bit of anything in it, and they'll land right on your hand and eat right out of your hand. And I'm sure these birds, I mean, this is way out in the bush, you know. The reality of them probably ever seeing a person before is slim, but uh, they'll come they'll come right to you like that.
Huh.
It's really cool. Camp robbers, that's what it is. They called them. Yeah,
Because they'll just come in. They're not afraid of you, and they just come in and grab whatever
absolutely.
they want to eat.
Yep. I've seen them in Canada too when I've been up there. I've seen them this spring when I was up there hunting, but the ones up there are a little bit different, and they don't seem quite as trusting as the ones out west. They still get close, but they weren't definitely weren't landing in my hand. They were come down and eat all the bear bait. They seem to like
Like
popcorn
that.
real well.
Well, nice and easy for them to just pick it up
Yep.
and go.
Yep. Yeah, that's
Uh,
the bear hunting. I like bears. I'm kind of fascinated. I wish we had bears here, but we don't. And they're just so unique creatures. You know, every one of them's got a different personality and stuff. But the bear baiting, when you're sitting there with the baits, I know a lot of people are don't like bait or do like bait, whatever your case may be. But on the bear baiting, it's so interesting to watch because so many other animals come in to those baits and feed off of them. You know, it's just it's just fascinated me to sit there and see how many different critters will come in there in an evening and eat. And sometimes a bear will come in too, but all the
yeah,
other stuff makes up for it.
yeah. That would definitely be a nice. to sit
Yeah.
there and watch all the other animals come in, and
The pine
it gives you
marten
something to do while you're waiting for the bear to come in.
Absolutely. The pine martens up in, Canada where I was at, there was a lot of pine martens coming into the baits, and those things, they do not hold still, they're just constantly on the move, but there was some pine squirrels eating stuff out of the bait pile, and this pine marten, I don't even know where he came from. I didn't see him coming at all. I'm just watching this squirrel sitting there on the barrel eating, and the next thing I know, this pine martens just rolls him. I mean, just knocks him off the top and curls him up over there in a ball, and like just ate him right there in front of me, and then takes off running again. I was like, "Holy cow, did that just happen?" Because he just snuck right in. Then in Maine, I hunted Maine last fall, and up there it was the fisher cats that kind of did the exact same type of things, and they're a little bit bigger than the pine martens, but they would come in. Sometimes they would eat the bait, but it seemed like most of the time they were coming in to try to catch something else that was eating the bait. They were hunting off that bait as well, and just fun stuff to watch.
Yeah, it is. That would be definitely an interesting to watch all the different critters coming in,
Yeah.
and watch the squirrel get attacked and eaten.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, I could hear that. I could hear that marten crunching his bones. He was that close to me when he was eating him.
oh,
I could hear the bones popping in him. And they're not a very big animal. But my goodness, they must have some serious strong jaws from the sound of him.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That would be interesting.
Yeah,
Get it on
it's
camera too would be even extra bad good.
I had a camera on there, but I didn't have it on video. I just had it on photos. I wish I'd have had a trail camera set for video to get that, but I didn't. But it was still kind of neat. And the whole baiting thing, like I was mentioning a while ago, a lot of people are against baiting. It's a weird thing for me. I have no issue baiting bears, but like to bait a deer just sours my stomach for some reason. I just have no interest in it. It's I can't explain why, but um, I don't know. I think I have more respect for the deer than the bears, evidently, but
Oh,
I can't explain it from any other direction. But most of the places I've hunted bears, the woods are so thick that you can't see 10 yards in them. I mean, if you're not baiting those bears in, you're not going to kill bears. It's just, uh, you're not going to be able to, there's no way that you're going to slip up on, steel hunt one and get into it. It's too thick, too noisy. And the only chance you have at all is baiting them out into a small opening there,
yeah,
where you can get an ethical shot. Plus, it gives you time to study them, make sure there's no cubs, make sure it's not a sow that's lactating. There's a lot of Um, it helps with all that because if you were just steel hunting in that thick stuff and you just seen a bear, you would you wouldn't have much time to study it at all. And
yeah, and it could have some really young cubs with it, and
absolutely,
you wouldn't know until after you
yep,
shot it,
yep. So
and
that is
and
the
then
beauty of that's the beauty of baiting the bears. And I know they out west is a little bit different. Some of the areas out there is open enough where they can spot and stalk bears, but in that thick stuff up in Ontario, it's not happening.
yeah, it's pretty thick up there.
Yep.
That's where I went. Moose hunting was Ontario,
Yeah.
and it was pretty thick up there, and yeah, it was interesting hunt. It
Yeah.
wasn't archery. I would rather have done archery, but it was rifle. But it's a
Hmm.
good thing because the only moose I seen was about 300 yards away,
Yeah.
and it was right before time to quit shooting.
Yep.
There's no way you could have stalked on it because it had been way too late.
Right. That's moose is kind of my dream animal. I've wanted to hunt a moose for a long time, and
Oh, the
it's
meat
going to
is
happen.
really good.
It's going to happen. I just haven't put it together quite yet. And I've looked into Ontario a little bit. It's a little different how they do it there. I've been putting in for Maine for their drawing. Of course, I've obviously never been drawn, but I think Maine has the best chances of being drawn as a non-resident here in the states. They don't run off a point system, so it's a level playing field every year, and they do allocate a certain amount of the tags to non-residents. Um, but it's not. I mean, I've been up there quite a few times bear hunting and stuff, and it's wilderness, but it's not like Canadian or Alaskan wilderness either. It
Yeah.
doesn't have that same feel, that same romance to it. But one of these days, I'll get up to Alaska and ever since reading Jay Massey's stories, and stuff about the Moose Jaw, that's just been on my list to get a moose hunt in, and I'll get there one of these days.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
it's just so I've got friends in Alaska this week, actually three different friends in Alaska moose hunting this week, and it's just the logistics of it is crazy. Just getting there, and Alaska's big. Narrowing down a spot from 3,000 miles away to find a moose can be tricky, and there's
Yeah.
some guys that are really good at it though. Brian Burkhart, Monty Browning, and Terry Receiver, they're all up there this week, and I'm real anxious to see and talk to them when they get back to see how they done, because it's always a highlight for me to listen to their stories.
Yeah. Now, are they doing archery or are they doing rifle?
They're all three shooting traditional bows. Yes, long bows and recurves. Yep. So
That'd be some interesting stories.
yeah, they've been very successful. I think Brian Burkhart's killed. I think he's killed 6 moose out of the last 8 or 9 years, something like that. He's been very successful. Monty Brown, he's very successful at moose with a long bow. He's written a couple books on it as well. I don't. He just released a new book on do it yourself type moose hunting, which is really really good, and a lot of good information in there about finding spots and whatnot. But that's the trick is, Alaska's huge, but only a small portion of the area actually holds animals. A lot of it's just vast emptiness. And so finding those areas to get, and then finding somebody that can fly you into those areas so you can get set up to
Yeah.
hunt. It's just a lot of little puzzle pieces to put together to get to there. And a few more years, and I think I'm going to give it a go.
Yeah.
I'm not
Yeah.
getting
That'd be
any younger.
good. No, none of us are. Getting older by the second.
Yep.
Well, what would you like to tell the audience? Something in closing here.
Well, I guess the big thing: support your local clubs, local organizations. If you're into traditional archery, join Compton Traditional Bow Hunters. Help promote archery to youth. If you're into hunting and adventure, bow hunting in general, highly recommend anybody to join the Professional Bow Hunter Society. Get in on some of the group hunts that they offer, meet some people. It'll open up doors. That will open up doors. That'll open up doors. And you just make connections, and the amount of hunts and places are unlimited for the average guy. Just both those organizations, they're just all about putting people together and to make things happen. And I've met so many people through there and been offered so many hunts and been to places that I never dreamed that I'd be able to go to. And every time you go, you meet somebody else, and they're like, "Hey, you want to come hunt Kansas, or you want to go to Alaska, or wherever. Let's go to Canada. Let's go to the Yukon." There's always another door opening up, and the only way you'll get through those, or the fastest way you can get through those, is by joining those organizations and mingling in and getting a little bit out of it for what you put into it.
Yeah. And I'll leave some links in the description, make it easier
Absolutely.
for them to find. Um, that makes it easier if I put a link in there.
Yeah. Yeah. It's hard to explain, but it really is that way. You know, uh, you can sit on the couch and dream all you want, but when you get out and meet people that are doing it and have access, then it can help you do it. It makes it so much smoother. And I've done so many hunts with those guys that, and I get so many calls. Somebody's always calling saying, "Hey, let's go hunt here and let's go hunt there." And I wish I had more vacation time and or was retired so that I could go on some more of these. But you do what you can do, and take rain checks for those later on.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. Um, when you retire, you have the time, but then, what are you gonna do for the money? It kind of
Yeah.
dries up a little bit. So you
My
kind of have to, work a little bit so you can go play, right?
Yep. My grandfather used to tell me all the time, when you're young, uh, you have the money to do things, but not the time. When you're old, you have the time to do things, but not the money. So
Yeah.
yeah,
So we just got to figure out how to get both now that we're tired, right?
we gotta ride that middle line. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's been great talking with you. Some
Yeah, I
pretty good
appreciate it.
stories and good information, and look forward to talking to you in the future sometime, and we'll let everybody know. Remember, join the Arch Talk 101 Facebook group. We have a whole group of people in there that have got lots of experience. You'll be able to watch this video in here, or watch the replay of the video, and if you have any questions, just ask them. If you want somebody to take a look at your form, take a video on your phone, upload from your phone to the group, and we'll take a look and give you some pointers. That's what we're here for. That's why I called it Arch Talk 101, because I want to help, archers out, whether you're beginner or advanced.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you can also watch the videos on my YouTube channel, Learn to Fix It Yourself, as well as you can listen to the audio while you're driving or whatever, because you can't watch a video while you're driving. Um, on Spotify, as well as other places that podcasts are out. And you can go out to audible.com and you can listen to them there. They don't cost you to listen to them there either. So those kind of nice, because they'll just kind of keep playing it as they come out. You'll just get the next one.
Well, hey, I
Well,
appreciate you having me on, Roy.
yeah, thanks for being on. My name is Roy Canterbury, and I've been your host today on Arch Talk 101, and we'll catch you on the next one.